We start with unpacking customer operations and management. The first sub-function we deal with here is arguably the most important one: customer experience. Customer experience deals with how customers, target and otherwise, experience the business, as well as how they experience the products and services the business offers. Customers do not see departments or various teams involved in offering the product or service. All the interactions the customer has with the business and or the business products and services are interlinked into one full experience that the customer can view as either positive or negative. The next subfunction is leads management, which is a term that would mostly be suited for any variation of a B2B setup. A more suitable term for a B2C setup is customer acquisition or customer sales. The next subfunction is account management. Again, this is a more B2B rotated term. A more suitable term for B2C is customer relationship management, which brings us to customer support, which, along with customer relationship management, pretty much sum up what goes on in the subfunction of account management. The last subfunction we deal with within the main function of customer operations and management is partner management as applied to the context of customer management. This is to say that partner management as a subfunction does not only happen within customer management as a core function of business. Partner management within this context deals with managing relationships and deliverables with partners to ensure they play their mandated part in delivering superior customer experience, securing customer acquisition, and delivering on customer support processes. If a partner supplies a billing engine for the business and customers are struggling with billing issues, then they need to play their part in resolving such issues to ensure the customer experiences as little pain as possible. The next core function we deal with is marketing and product. Again, this function can take a slightly different shape depending on the nature of the industry and how the business in question is rotated. A market-led strategy will demand a different setup of this function than a product-led strategy. In fact, in some instances, the function might be split into two full functions: marketing and advertising on the one side, and product development and innovation on the other side. It totally depends on what the organization wants to achieve and how it wants to achieve it. The first subfunction we deal with within the core function of marketing and product is product innovation and road mapping. So this is essentially the process of product development and management, which deals with developing a product, often from scratch. For example, if a bank realizes that dancers who specialize in anatomic exhibition in high-end human exhibition establishments make about the same income as mid-level investment bankers, they might fancy an opportunity to design credit, savings, or investment products similar to the ones offered to the profile type of a mid-level investment banker, but with the customer experience and support nuances that would suit a successful anatomic exhibitor. So essentially, start with the income profile as a foundation and build on the product from there. The product development cycle will effectively involve shaping all the elements that build upon the income profile on which to incorporate and center key nuances of this new target customer into a new profile that would best fit the prominent personas of the target customer, from credit risk modeling and management to new partner onboarding and associated partner management processes, particularly processes within the context of customer experience and support. Partners such as anatomic component insurance vendors, overall medical, surgical, or cosmetic anatomic maintenance plans, and such come to mind. Launching such a product would involve a long list of interventions, process, people, systems, and data-wise, which can't all be done at the same time. That's where the road mapping process comes in. Once the product is launched and established, new data might present itself that requires certain modifications to some elements to keep the product relevant, competitive, or to elevate revenue if room for such elevation is indicated by available data and insights. The process is essentially the management of the product, which includes managing its strategic direction and evolution. Furthermore, Different personas within the main customer profile will require different permutations of product features to satisfy the particular persona, depending on the level of personalization the business is able to achieve. That's where customer value management comes in. For example, an older straight male exhibitionist might not have the same savings needs as a younger male of a different orientation, so those nuances need to be taken into account. Now, in the instance that marketing and advertising form part of the function, advertising and campaign management become part of the package deal. The various forms of advertising across the various available channels, as well as their associated management, will form part of the organizational design process within this function. Product and marketing tend to be intertwined because their success is codependent. In fact, often the process of designing a product strategy has a lot of similar considerations to the process of designing a campaign strategy. Demarcating audience types flows from customer types. Determining pricing as a factor of a product strategy directly feeds into how the product should be marketed. For example, if the approach to the pricing strategy is pricing economics, deciding that the pricing strategy would be premium as a natural selection process to ensure the attraction of exhibitionists who are committed to their craft, are future minded, and have a palatable risk profile, this already rules out certain types of advertising strategies, psychographics wise, and essentially somewhat dictates the kind of messaging required to lend the value proposition promise of the product and actually get a good shot at customer acquisition. The two functions are both prominent in nature and work hand in hand to ensure that the right customers are led to the door, and once they have arrived, they are given exactly what they were promised, so that they not only stay, but are happy with their decision to come over and stay, and even invite others similar to them in profile to come over and stay. Now, a great part of the fulfillment process of the said product, once designed and developed, particularly across the various customer value options aligned to personalization outputs extracted from the master customer profile, would in most cases require partners across the various touchpoints and channels to deliver on the value proposition promised to the customer. For this reason, channel and partner management become a key component of the marketing and product function within the context of product fulfillment. In our anatomic exhibition example, credit risk profiling becomes a key factor if a large part of the customer value design involves contextual factors such as income, mainly received as cash or cash alternatives such as Bitcoin, the provision of perks such as discounts on insurance and cosmetic maintenance, as well as how these perks are fulfilled from a sign up and benefits claim perspectives. They become an important sub-function of the marketing and product function during the organizational design process. We move on to finance. The great thing about finance processes is that they tend to be standard across industries, organizational postures, and rotations. Record to report deals with the collection, processing, and delivery of accurate financial data. The outcome of this process is typically financial reports that reflect an organization's performance and compliance with regulatory standards. Source to pay deals with identifying a need for goods or services to making the final payment to suppliers. Depending on the nature of the organization, the initial parts of this process, particularly as it relates to the actual identification of the need of a particular good or service, might happen elsewhere within the organization. For example, the customer operations and management function would likely be the one that recognizes the need for a streamlined accounts and customer relationship management system. The role of the source to pay function within the finance function would be to validate the need and follow the right processes to ensure the right approvals and sourcing processes are adhered to in order to ensure that the procurement of the said goods is done the right way, policy wise. The same goes for technology equipment, raw materials needed for the production of products and services, and so on. Order to cash deals with receiving and fulfilling customer orders from the initial order placement to the collection of payment and eventual management of the customer. We've covered the order to cash process in detail in both our revenue assurance as well as game theory courses, so a revisit to those courses for a refresh might be worthwhile. The order to cash sub-function mainly affects cash flow, and it is closely related to the customer operations and management function, as many of the processes and sub-processes within the two functions overlap and in some instances intertwine. Planning and analysis deals with budgeting, forecasting, and financial modeling in order to support major business decisions and ensure financial health. It integrates financial data with operational metrics to provide insights that drive strategic initiatives. The process typically involves gathering financial and operational data from various sources within the organization, then standardizing and validating the collected data to ensure accuracy. Once this is done, then budgets and forecasts are developed based on analyzed data, often with scenario planning for different business outcomes. Actual financial outcomes are then continuously assessed against forecasts, and the necessary adjustments are made where necessary. The last subfunction we deal with within the main function of finance is corporate finance. Corporate finance focuses on managing funding sources, capital structure, investment decisions, and the overall financial strategy to maximize shareholder value. The process involves, firstly, assessing and prioritizing investments in projects with high projected returns by analyzing potential capital expenditures and future cash flows in order to make more informed decisions about which projects to pursue. Secondly, the corporate finance process deals with raising capital through either debt or equity while paying attention to the risk profile and cost of capital. Lastly, it deals with the management of short term assets and liabilities to ensure that the business can not only continue its operations but also meet its short term financial obligations and essentially maintain liquidity.